I am happy to present Unit 10 for secondary stage. Unit 10, it talks about the news. And we will present past perfect tense. Let's begin together. Unit 10, news. Did you see past perfect tense before? Let us see some examples of it. I have never seen such beautiful sunset before I went to the island. We weren't able to stay overnight at the hotel since we hadn't reserved a room in advance. She had never been to the symphony before last night. I didn't have any cash before I had lost my purse. I had been to Mexico once before. Past perfect. We can use past perfect to show the order of two past events. The past perfect shows the earlier action and the past simple shows the later action. This means that the first action is in the past perfect and second action is in the past simple. When the police arrived, the thief had escaped. This means that the police didn't catch the thief. Past perfect is also called the perfect. It means completed. Is a verb tense used to talk about actions that were completed before some point in the past. We use simple past to say what happened past, often sequential order. The past perfect expresses events and actions that occurred prior to another past action. Usually expresses in the past simple. Past perfect tense describes an action that was completed before point in the past. For example, both of these tenses can be used independently. The past perfect is necessary if we are not going back to the earlier past and simply moving from one event to another. If the sequence is clear, the past perfect is not needed. The past perfect is optional when we are talking about an action at a specific time. This is confusing. We use the past symbol for past events or actions which have no connection to the present, a completed action. We use the past perfect for action which start in the past and are still happening. What about the forms of past perfect? Forming past perfect. The past perfect tense in English is composed of two parts. The past tense of the verb of have, had, plus the past perfect of the main verb. She had given in affirmative. Subject plus had plus past participle. What about negative? Had will be hadn't. She hadn't asked it. The auxiliary verb had is conjugated in the past simple had. The main verb is invariable in past participle form, ed or irregular. For negative sentence, we insert not between the auxiliary and the verb in the main verb. For question sentence, we exchange subject and the auxiliary verb. Look at these examples with past perfect. Subject I, auxiliary verb had, main verb past participle finished. I had finished my homework. You, subject, auxiliary had, past participle stopped before me. She had, negative, she hadn't gone to school. We hadn't left. Have you arrived? Had they eaten dinner? In the question, we begin with had. Yes, no question. Had you? Had you arrived? Had they eaten dinner? Contraction is the past perfect. When it was past perfect speaking, we use contract, subject, and auxiliary verb. We also sometimes do this in formal writing. You had, yod, and you will see. He had, hid. She had, shit. It had, it. It would, it had. We had, when they had, they. The apostrophe D contraction is also used for the auxiliary verb would. For example, we apostrophe D can mean we had or we would. But usually the main verb is in different form. For example, we had arrived, past perfect. We would arrive. After would, we add the infinitive, base verb. So it will be arrive, the base verb. It is always clear from the context. What about the uses of the past perfect tense? Use one complete action before something in the past. The past perfect expresses the idea that something occurred before another action in the past. As you can see here in the past before another action. It also can show that something happened before a specific time in the past. Let us see some examples. Tony knew Istanbul so well because he had visited the city several times. Had Susan ever studied Thai before she moved to Thailand? She only understands the movie because she had read the book. We weren't able to get a hotel room because we hadn't booked in advance. Had you ever visited the USA before your trip in 2006? Yes, I have been to the USA once before. Used to. Duration before something in the past. Non-continuous verbs. With non-continuous verbs and some non-continuous uses of mixed verbs, we use past perfect to show that something started in the past and continued up until another action in the past. Example, we had that car for 10 years before it broke down. If we translate it, نحن لدينا هذه العربية منذ 10 سنوات قبل أن تتعطل. By the time Alex finished his studies, he had been in London for over 8 years. They felt bad about selling the house because they had owned it for more than 40 years. Yes, it's very difficult. Although the above use of the past perfect is normally limited to non-continuous verbal verbs or non-continuous uses of mixed verbs, the words live, work, teach, and study are sometimes used in this way, even though they are not non-continuous verbs. Important specific times with past perfect, unlike the present perfect. It is possible to use specific time words or phrases with past perfect. Although this is possible, it is usually not necessary. Example, she had visited her Japanese relatives once in 1993 before she moved in with them. As we see, we can say something happened first and something happened for second. In these examples, event A is the event that happened first, and event B is second or more recent event. Event A, John had gone out. It happened first. When I arrived in the office, did I see John? No, because he had gone. Event B, when they arrived, we had already started cooking. We started cooking before they arrived. He was very, very tired. because he hadn't slept well. He didn't sleep, so he was very tired. This is the first action, event A, and this is second action, event B. Adverbs. We often use adverbs already, before specific time, still, as previously, just, a very short time before the specified time, ever, at any time before the specified time, or never, at no time before the specified time, with the past perfect. I called his office, but he had already left. It still hadn't rained at the beginning of May. I went to visit her when she had just moved to Berlin. It was the most beautiful photo I had ever seen. Had you ever visited London when you moved there? I had never met anyone from California before I met Jim. After, as soon as, plus past perfect plus past simple. As soon as I had seen her, I knew there was something wrong. After, as soon as plus past simple plus past simple. As soon as I saw the robber, I tried to catch him. None of them can be the first or the action. They happen together. Before, by the time, plus past perfect plus past simple. Before he saw the fellow, he had tied the room. Having plus past participle. After, as soon as he had done, equal having done. I think it is new for you to use this structure, but you know, having plus past participle equal this structure. It has the same meaning. He worked in a restaurant after he had left school. This means, having left school, he worked in a restaurant. After having, we put past participle. As soon as he had arrived, he phoned our parents. What it will be? Having plus past participle arrived, we phoned our parents. After, before, when plus verb plus ing. After his father had died, he left the country. We can put noun. After his father's death. Death is a noun of die. Die يموت. Death الموت. He left the country. When the play ended, the audience went home. When he opened the window, the bird flew out. On plus verb plus ing. When she saw the snake, she screamed. On seeing the snake, she screamed. On plus verb plus ing. On seeing. More examples to make it clear. When I arrived, the train had left. Did I catch the train or I missed it? When I arrived is second action. The train had left. This is the first action. I missed the train. I didn't catch it. If you translate it, لو عندما وصلت المحطة القطر كان غادر. أنا لم ألحق القطار. لقد فاتني. When the train left, I had arrived. I had arrived. This is the first action. And after that, the train left. So I caught the train. When I arrived, the train left. It means I caught the train. So first action and second action is very important to know them. Which action the first and which one is the second. Before that, past perfect. After that, past simple. Let us see. He went back home Before that, past perfect or past simple? Past perfect. He had finished the job. She had seen the film. After that, what we can write? Yes, past simple. She went to bed. By plus time, by then, followed by past perfect. He arrived home at 11 o'clock yesterday. By then, the train had stopped. By 2010, the project had been completed. What about wish? When we write wish or use wish plus past perfect, our wish it will be on the present, past, or the future. Do you know? Yes, we are talking about past wishes. أمنية في الماضي. I wish I had worked harder last year. It isn't past. If plus past perfect, especially in the third conditional. If she hadn't called, I wouldn't have known. It was only when plus past perfect plus past simple. As soon as he had paid his debts, he left the town. It was only when he had paid his debts that he left the town. As you know, it was only when. Past simple, especially when it's negative past simple plus until plus past perfect. She didn't leave until she had got permission. هي لم تغادر إلا عندما حصلت على الإذن. It wasn't until plus past simple. It wasn't until she had got permission that she left. Subject plus had, no sooner, hardly, scarcely, plus past participle. When we use no sooner, we use than. When we use hardly, scarcely, we use when plus past simple. She left the house. She was run over by a car. She had no sooner left the house than she was run over by a car. He entered the office. His boss shouted at him. He had hardly entered the office when his boss shouted at him. What about if we begin with no sooner, hardly, scarcely? We add had plus subject plus past participle. No sooner followed by than. Hardly, scarcely followed by when plus past simple. No sooner had she left the house than she was run over by a car. She left the house, she was run over by a car. What about passive? As you know, when we write passive, from passive, object plus had been plus past participle. He said that he had cleaned the room. He said that the room had been cleaned. We began with the room, object, and after that had plus been plus past participle. Let us complete talking about the main vocabulary. Broadcast, to send out a program, TV, or a radio. Editor is a person who is in charge of news or magazine. Foreign correspondent is a person who finds news story in different country. Headlines, the title of news stories. Fact checker is a person who makes sure that information is true. Interview, to ask someone questions. Journalist is a person who finds a news story and tells the public. Investigator is a person who tries to discover the facts of what happened. Photographer is a person who takes photographs as a job or hobby. Newsreader, someone who reads reports on a TV news program. News channel, a television station where you can see news program. Reporter is a person who collects and tells the news for newspapers, radio, or TV. Scene, a place where something has happened, perhaps a crime. Search engine, a computer program that searches the internet for information. Source, the place something comes from or start at. Launch, to start something, usually something big or important. Investigator, what is the meaning of investigator? Do you know? Yes. Investigator, detective, someone who investigates something. Observe or study by close examination. A team of special investigators have gone to the explosion. Wow. Inspector. An inspector, what means inspector? Someone who inspects something, examine, look over. Last year, school inspectors reported that 20% of young pupils were unable to read or write. لا يستطيعون القراءة أو الكتابة. Conductor. Conductor is someone who collectors of fares in a public transport, like bus, train. As the train pulled out, the senior conductor came around. احنا بنقول عليه الكمثري. Admit. What's the meaning of admit? Admit has two meanings. First one is confess. In court, he admitted to lying about the accident. يعترف. Admit, allow, permit. يأذن لي. You will not be admitted to the theater after the performance has started. What's the meaning of fact? Fact is a piece of information that is known to be true. The book is full of facts about world truth. Truth. Truth is the state or quality of being true. For example, there is no truth in the rumor that spread about the scientist. لا توجد أي حقيقة في الإشاعات التي انتشرت حول العالم، حول هذا العالم. What is the meaning of the scene? Scene, it has also two meanings. Number one, two meanings. Number one, stage setting. The opening scene of the movie is a battlefield. Number two, place of an action. Firefighters arrive on the scene of the fire within minutes. رجال المطافئ وصلوا للمكان مكان الحدث خلال دقائق. المكان النيران. Scenery. What is the meaning of scenery? Landscape. منظر طبيعي. We drove through some very beautiful scenery in the country. View. What's the meaning of view? Place that commands an extensive view. Look out. Look out. We had a fantastic view of the mountains from our room. منظر طبيعي ثابت ممكن نشاهده من room, balcony, and so on. Remains. Remains the parts of something that are left after the rest have been destroyed or had disappeared. Necropolis. Necropolis is an area of land where the people are buried, especially a large ancient one. Permission. What's the meaning of permission? Permission, if you have permission, allowance. It is uncountable word. Uncountable word. So it means allowance. Permission, if you have permission to do something, you are allowed to do it. He drove his father's car without his permission. Can you differentiate between permission and permit? Yes. Permit, written warrant or license, granted by one having authority. تصريح مكتوب. People from other countries require work permits. Goodbye for now. I'm happy to this presentation with my best wishes. Miss Abdesam was with you.